Hey, my friends, my name is Marissa. Welcome to these divination sessions. Today we are diving into what it is that you are being prepared for, within and or without. That's about it for the intro. You have 5 piles to choose from today. Never feel like you have to rush. You might be drawn to more than one pile, and sometimes there may not just be a message here for you at the time that you are currently tuning into this, but you can always come back later. And whenever you're ready, we're going to hop into the sessions. If you chose pile number 1, here is your reading for what it is that you are currently being prepared for. I have 2 oracles that came up for you guys in the shuffling, and it looks like 3 tarot cards. We're going to get into all of the cards real time together. I haven't looked at any of these yet. So what it is that pile number 1 is being prepared for, spirit. We have High Wraith, longing for home, homesick for the stars. Oh, this card, you guys. Oh, look, it kind of matches me. Home is here. I'm just kidding. So, okay. What you're being prepared for. And Guardian Angel. Oh my gosh, you are not alone. Okay, so, I mean, Star Seed. I haven't had one of these piles come through. It's been like a couple readings that I've done where, since it's been where, generally sometimes in these readings pretty consistently, it doesn't happen every time I do a reading, but there can be a pile that stands out very significantly as being beings that really don't feel like they belong here. I'm thinking of Hercules, go the distance type of beings. If you've drawn or been drawn to a pile where I've mentioned that song, because it's only been 2 piles so far in 2 separate readings, like 2 different videos that I've mentioned that. So if you are someone that chose this pile and has also chosen a pile where I talk about that song going the distance, then leave a comment. I want to see. And this just might be your confirmation. What it is that you're being prepared for. I feel like just based off these cards, you're being prepared for feeling like you're stepping into realities and communities. And like, this is just a time on the planet, pile number 1, where beings like yourself will find their communities and find their people. I feel like during other ages on the planet, in certain civilizations, it hasn't always been so available to us to be able to outreach and find that we are not, so delusional in our own realities, or feeling so delusional, right? As long as you're believing your thoughts to be true or to be the end all be all, then to some extent we're all delusional, as long as we're believing, the insanity of our own minds. But despite that, it hasn't always been so widely available to us where we can easily see that there's other people that feel the same way as us. And, this is a pile where I really feel like you guys are the pile that tends to look up at the stars and just be like, why am I here? I don't belong here. And maybe it's felt very hard for you to fit in. And I'm hearing what you're being prepared for is finding more people like this. I'm also hearing that some of you guys are here to help other people, to help tweak perspectives and perceptions in terms of understanding that if you're here, it's where you're meant to be. There's never any mistake. Although sometimes this universe and our reality can feel very chaotic, it is so intricately designed, you guys. None of it is a mistake, and all of it, believe it or not, is created by you, a higher version of yourself, right? And it's fun. Believe it or not, we chose these experiences to have fun, right? To be veiled in a veil of forgetfulness and a veil of illusion. Like, it's not fun to the extent that you have not remembered that you have chosen it, and that it's just an illusion, right? But when you wake up, it's like, that's when the dance with eternity really does begin, when you're like, oh my God, I chose this and it's fun, and it goes on and on and on, and this is just like a temporary reality, and it's like this life and then all the other ones. But I deeply feel this is a pile that has felt alone. And so I'm hearing what you're being prepared for. You're finding more communities. You're making a more conscious connection with your guides, your team behind the scenes. You just feel very connected, even if like you don't have to have other people understand you. I feel like that's what you guys are being prepared for, to a much more outstanding level, is that, again, we're not, even when you spend time, like you can spend every day with someone for like a decade, and you still don't know. We will never fully understand another person, and we're not meant to, right? But we, when we're speaking purely in terms from the level of the personality and the level of the soul's blueprint and the level of their own complexities and karmas, etc., right? And so I feel like you to some degree are able to intuit other people a lot better than they can do that towards you. So what I mean by that is you have a very expanded lens of perception. You come from higher densities, or you've at least the very least spent other incarnations within other densities where there's a lot more light existing. The more light, the more clarity within paradigms, within realities. And so I feel like coming here, it's like you tend to understand other people and you can see where they're coming from, and you don't negate it. You don't make it more or less bad, or mean anything. And you can kind of understand and hold the space for other people. But when it comes to other people being able to hold that type of space for you guys, pile number 1, I feel like it's been challenging, and you felt very outcasted and misfit. And at the very least, just like it's hard. It's few and far between that you find people that can at least like relate, again, even though we're never going to be fully able to understand other people completely. I feel like it's been challenging for my pile number 1s to, at the very least, find people within their paradigms, within their realities. And even when people, get close, I feel like, one of the reasons you've been marinating in these energies and what your guides are really preparing you for is like, for some of you, it is very relevant that you are here to stand alone, right? You are not alone, but I feel like in many cases you are here to stand alone. And so oftentimes it's like, I notice this in the blueprints of beings that are here to really be way showers of a different way of existing on planet Earth. It's like, if we were to feel like we really fit in somewhere, it would be a lot easier for us to get stuck in a reality that's not actually meant for us, right? And like groups and communities that aren't necessarily meant for us. And I feel like it's very important. Your guides are coming through and saying it's been very important that pile number 1 kind of marinates in their own energy and their own wisdom, and kind of making sense of this for themselves, because in some way you have a very unique expression that is not meant to sound like it's regurgitated, or a regurgitated version of someone else's truth. Right. And so it's like, in this, it feels like a curse until you understand the blessing that it's been, and how it really has been preparing you for something much greater. Right. And so I feel like you are at the very least coming into a space to where you understand the necessity, and that, you can be alone, but it doesn't necessarily mean that you're lonely. And actually the most wise beings that I know, and I tend to come across, actually very much so seek after that solitude and those times to really deepen into themselves and expand, right? It's that balance of involution and evolution. So I feel like the tarot is definitely going to get us deeper, but overall, I feel like you're being prepared to see this from a different lens, to where like something's going to click, and you're going to be like, oh my gosh, this is why it's felt like I've never fit in, or like, this is why this is actually a blessing, because it's like, it's very likely that my pile number 1s tend to just have a more expanded paradigm. And so not a lot of people, like if you're here and the majority of the population is here, you can see what's going on here, but they can't necessarily, and that's kind of part of what these way showers are here for. It's like holding a vibrational framework of like what is possible. And so, there might be loneliness with that, but I'm hearing that you are, the more that we tweak our perspectives, pile number 1, and the more that we do marinate in teachings that remind us the interconnectivity of everything. And it only feels lonely to the extent that we've forgotten that you're never truly alone, right? So we're going to get deeper with your tarot, into this reading. We have the 5 of Wands. So yeah, I was getting this sense of like an internal battle, or maybe my pile number 1s, you have just like been picked on, or you've, had some experiences being bullied or outcast, or like this energy seems like it might have been written in your blueprint for a reason, to not really, to not feel like you fit in. And, this is definitely something that I relate to, being bullied or picked on. It was for like the way I looked, or like the way my hair was, because I looked a lot different than the people I grew up with. But more so than that, it's energetics. It always comes down to energetics. And there's something about you guys that is very brilliant. And people have picked up on that and been threatened by your just your natural charisma. And charisma can look all different types of ways, but there's a natural charisma to this pile that I feel like as you grow and as you learn how to own your energy and not like dim yourself down, because that's definitely something that we can try to compensate for when it's like, okay, people aren't accepting me. Like, I want to fit in. I don't feel like I belong anywhere. How can I get the most amount of acceptance? And generally for beings that have the types of codes that I'm seeing in your guys' blueprint, what can come along with that is like, all right, I'm going to dim to fit in, right? And so there might have been, to some extent, like even innocently so, people feeling like competitive towards you, pile number one. It's because you're so different, and you do have a potential, you do have these codes within your blueprint to really be a powerful leader on the planet at this time. And so you might have felt that resistance from other people of allowing you to step into that. And the more you step into that, it's like in a weird way, they kind of give off an energy that they don't want you to. But again, that tells you more about just, that tells you more about them than it does about you, right? Pile number one. So you're being prepared for, Four of Swords. So there's definitely been a lot of healing that I feel like you've been in a space to where you're being prepared to understand these things, and everything that you went through from a different lens of perception. I feel like too, again, it is coming back to the sense that in some way you are going to help other people through this type of experience, especially on the planet at this time. There's a lot of catalysts happening globally that are going to propel people into their awakenings. Whether it's their primary awakening or secondary, there's different stages, and there's all different types of initiations and awakenings that we go through. And so to some extent, I feel like you are here to work with people that don't feel like they fit in or don't feel like Earth is their home, and to help honestly coach them through that. With the Four of Swords too, again, it's learning how to soothe the mental anxiety that comes from feeling like being picked on or being outcast, or having people gossip about you or whatever, right? Because you guys are very sensitive, you're very intuitive, you're very just connected to your fellow man, right? Your brothers and sisters. And again, I feel like it's just one of those things of like, Father, forgive them, for they know not what they do. I feel like there's a lot of people that the evil eye doesn't have to affect us, right? You don't have to like protection candles or protection spells, in my most humble of opinions, right? Because when you are operating from higher paradigms and from more expanded paradigms, it's like, it won't be able to affect you. Like the light will literally like burn it away. That's just at least what my guides show me. So like, not playing the game, right? If you're engaging in those realms, like live by the sword, die by the sword. If you're engaging in the realms of like evil eye and like being jealous of people, etc., those are all normal emotions to experience from time to time, but not attaching a narrative to it allows it to run through. And so I'm seeing what you guys are being prepared for is just understanding this more of like, okay, I don't have to live in this fear that people like, there's like this persecution code that we carry as light workers, and beings that do resonate with being starseeds, or that at the very least that can seem like kind of a buzzword to me. And so I like kind of feel distasteful when I use it, but at the very least it's beings that feel like they've spent more incarnations within other YO universities, right? Not just on planet Earth. So it can feel kind of foreign. The codes here can feel kind of foreign and just like overwhelming, because it's very likely that you guys have far surpassed where humanity is at. And so it's like, this bullshit again, like coming into this bullshit again, right? Where everyone's just like trying to prove their point, and everyone thinks that they're right, and everyone has, something to prove, and just like, ugh, it's like, come on. We are beyond this, aren't we? Or we should be. And so in some way, like, you're going to help other people step beyond this like kind of pettiness that kind of exists. But yeah, what I was essentially saying is like, if you're engaging in those paradigms of jealousy and you're hoping, I feel like we only tend to feel competitive towards someone else when we are, we tend to feel competitive towards other people when our heart is not in the right place, or when we're operating, when like our integrity is off, but when your integrity is there and you've gone through that process of purification, and you really feel like you're in your own lane and you really are doing things for the right reasons, not for the clout, not for the attention, not for the fame, whatever, then you don't tend to feel competitive with other people. They might feel competitive towards you, but again, that's always telling you more about them than it does about yourself, right? And so you don't have to buy into other people's paradigms of, competition is normal, jealousy is normal. Like, again, these are human emotions that run through, but, it doesn't have to be a predominant part of your reality. And also you're learning what you're being prepared for is learning how to sense that from other people when you are just like their mirror and their ability to experience that energy. And, it's just giving them an opportunity to either bind themselves to greater karma or to set themselves free, and realize that, it doesn't have to be like that. And it's not about you or them or anyone at the end of the day. It's always about coming back. What is this here to teach me about myself, right? So your last card is Two of Swords. So yeah, I feel like this is definitely like a choosing. Like, this really feels like with all this air energy that's coming through, this is what do you want to feed? Do you want to feed truth or do you want to feed illusion? And so, like, do you want to feed the energy? Like, yeah, this is interesting. This is very interesting because, you know, we can take anything. I see this so much in like TikTok and just like, I see this so much in many different places, YouTube shorts too, where people are like trying to self-diagnose like different things, different mental things, and it's like in a way, and just like everything we see, yeah, I'm not even gonna get down that rabbit hole, but it's like people are seeking for ways to feel like a victim. And I'm not saying pile number 1 is doing this, but there's all different varying degrees that we can do this. And we do that to the extent that we forget that we are the creators of this. That from a higher level, we have instigated all of these different scenarios to where we can choose. Where we are either choosing light or we are choosing dark. I'm not saying light is good and dark is bad, but it's saying light as clarity and dark as confusion. We're either setting ourselves free through truth, through seeing this play for what it is, or we are binding ourselves to the personality, to the ego, to greater karma, to greater suffering by choosing these narratives and adopting things about our personality that is all inherently bullshit and transient, etc. Right? It's like seeking ways to try to fit in somewhere through distorted ways, right? And so I feel like in some sort of way, like this feels very relevant to your guys' blueprint of just like releasing all labels and just going towards truth. What sets me free doesn't mean that you're discounting the human experience, pile number 1, but it's like you're really being prepared for a new level of maturity and a new level of freedom where, you know, you're not really attaching identities to yourself. You're not really attaching labels or identities to other people. You see how they're relevant for this experience, but at the end of the day, I feel like you realize that the extent that you believe it, the extent that you believe these things to be true and to be the end all be all is the extent that you feel either bound or free, right? And it's all like, there's no in between, right? And as long as we're like giving ourselves permission to feed illusion in one area, we have just accepted the veil of illusion as being what we want to perpetuate in our reality. And so when you're like, no, truth, making that choice to always choose truth, it's like that's what you're going to be guided towards, right? More realities that support truth. You'll be guided to more mature relationships, people that are also really devote people on the path, devote teachers, devote beings that, you know, aren't about petty bullshit and, you know, comparison and whatever, right? It's really about freedom. And pile number 1, I feel like I feel like you're kind of over it. I feel this stage of just like, I'm fucking over it. You know, like this is not fun. As long as like there's comparison and petty bullshit, it's like, that's not fun. And so you're learning how to discern even just like your input. And so if you're around beings and you're around people and just like whatever your input is, if it's supporting that level of like competition is normal, competition is okay. It's like, you know, depending on the elements that are most dominant, that might be your experience of like, that might be an experience you've had. But the more that you cleanse, the more that you purify, that experience tends to be less dominant, right? And again, when your heart is in the right place, you don't feel those things. I'm like really doing my best to check, like even in my own experience, like the more that I've purified, like that tends to be, I don't compare. And because I really like when you align to your soul stream, it's just like the power and the authenticity that comes through, like, you know, you got it going on and you're like, no one could compete even if they tried. And it's not from a cocky place. It's just like, you just really own your sense of authenticity, your own unique soul stream. And there's nothing to prove, right? You're just like showing up, whatever, you know, it's like, because you are choosing truth. And ultimately, you know that, you know, I start to wake up every day and the first thing I think of every day is like, I'm going to die. Right? That's the first thought that comes in is like, this is not real. This is not lasting. And so there's like an amount of freedom that comes with that, because then you don't get carried away in petty ass bullshit as easily. Right? And so you're being wise to discern who's in your life, what you say yes to, what you say no to, saying yes when you really mean yes, saying no when you really say no, when you really mean no, taking time to like sit on things before you make a decision, and all knowing it's because that you are here for something greater, that you are here for something much beyond the pettiness that planet Earth tends to exist at quite naturally. You're here to be beyond that. You're here to be a way sure of what is possible. So yeah, I'm going to leave this here for now. Pile number 1, this is beautiful. Let me know. Yeah, let me know if you pulled other piles or if you've been drawn to other piles in past videos that I talk about that song, Go the Distance. If you haven't, doesn't matter. You should listen to that. Type in on Spotify or whatever, or even YouTube, Go the Distance, Hercules, and it's an incredible song. So please like this video, comment, subscribe if you've been here before, and I hope to see you soon. Hey. Hey, pal 2, here's your reading for what it is that you guys are being prepared for. So, you guys had 2 oracles come up and 3 tarot cards come up. No, you had 2 oracles and 2 tarot cards. I haven't looked at any of these. We're going to do these real time together. So, what is it that pal number 2 is being prepared for, please, Spirit? We have You're Not For Everyone. Gosh, the people that are drawn to my channel are my people. Let me just say that, because the first pile, I'm just like, it's already very similar. Embrace your weirdness, face your true north. So yeah, if you were potentially drawn to pile number 1, only if you were, like, tune into that too. I can already say confidently. Enjoy growth and reap rewards. Okay, so before oh my god, my nails are a mess. I was like, let me clip these before I get on this reading, but I don't know, you guys. I switched up my vitamins, and these, the vitamins I were using before are so much better, but these are not it. They're like, my nails are like flaking off. Okay, so now that you know a little bit more about my hygiene routine, let's get into this reading. Okay, so You're Not For Everyone. I'm seeing with the You're Not For Everyone and the Lady card, very, she is parallel to the Empress card. I'm hearing that the more that you embrace who you are, and the less that you try to filter yourself, the less you try to fit in, the less that you try to abide by these, like, self-inflicted rules of how you should or should not be based off of, your gender, the current role that you play, whatever it is, all of these different boxes that we subconsciously place ourselves in, and try to, live up to. The less that you do that, the more that you are going to grow. Some of you guys, this is growing in your business. Some of you guys, this is growing in your communities that you're building. This is growing in yourself, just in yourself. It's so interesting because, the less you filter, the more confident you actually feel. And I feel like one of the reasons that we try to filter who we are, I just see this. I go to a lot of parks. I'm a mama bear. I go to a lot of parks, and it's like the most fun conversations I have are with people that I just are not trying, right? They're not trying. They're not trying to be politically correct or anything, but they're just talking to me and showing up as if they were just talking to a homie or something, And so that's how I try to live. That's how I try to be. It's what you see is what you get. And I feel like the more that my pal number 2s do that, the more that you are just okay with how you are, the better. I mean, you feel free. That's true freedom. I really don't think the game of spirituality is about trying to become something and trying to make a name for yourself. I really feel like we have this is what my guides have shown me for a long time, especially when I was getting into law of attraction in my early incarnation. It started to feel really off for me and really counterintuitive. And this is just my own blueprint, just speaking from my own personal experience, right? It just started feeling off because I'm it shouldn't be hard, right? It should feel like a natural unfolding, stepping into your power, and just this life, and just it's the Tao, right? It's the Tao Te Ching. It's the most natural course of things, and it's not forcing, right? It's really enjoying all of it for what it is, right? The 3 steps to becoming the creator of your reality, or just remembering that you are the creator, right? Remembering that it's not becoming the creator, that you already are, is know yourself, accept yourself, then become the creator. So knowing where you are, knowing that this is the reality that you're in, this is the reality that from a higher level you selected, and then accepting that. That's the hardest step for most people, is accepting it, especially in this, when we're so immersed in this disgusting hustle culture. Your guides are really preparing you to just not try so hard. Right? And it's funny because it's you're being prepared for it. And it almost feels like the word prepare almost feels like it has that masculine undertone, but in a way it's you're being prepared to release the filters and the adopted identities and the things that, actually keep you small and keep you limited because, you've been taught, just like the rest of us growing up in cultures that we grew up in, that who you are is not okay. And that you need to change who you are in order for other people to accept you. Right. And so I feel like the more that you embrace your weirdness and the more that you just embrace your eccentricity, the more that you actually feel like you're growing and you're expanding and you're radiating more. And then this is also going to pay off in whatever else you're doing. Right. Because people can feel when we're not showing up super authentic, they can feel it. And they don't really know why. They just feel that we're holding something back. Right? But not knowing that, it could just be ourselves, and they can feel it. We can really sense in other people, especially if you're very empathic, which we're all, as the planet increases in light and density, as more beings wake up, the the degree to which we are able to sense into other people's paradigms is going to be much easier. So there's nothing to hide anyways, right? And so the more that you're like, I have nothing to hide, the less we're going to give off these weird energies to other people. And they're like, okay, something's off. I don't know what it is, but I'm not really here for it, you know, peace and love. So I feel like the more that you're just like, I'm not trying to put on a show for anyone. This is who I am, take it or leave it. And just like, if you're not here for it, then please leave, because that's not what I want my field anyways. You know, you're gaining more respect, and it's never to do it for how, like, for other people's approval. It's just do it to be fucking free, pal, too. That's what you're being prepared for, a new level of freedom, which freedom is accepting everything about yourself, right? Accepting everything about your life and understanding if it was not relevant, you would not be experiencing it. And if it's where you think you should be, it's where you should be. And if you think it's not where you should be, but you're there, that's where you are. So it's where you should be, at least for now, right? And doing your best. If you're in toxic dynamics, get the fuck out of there, right? And also understanding, there's a reason for everything. And it's all here to usher you to more freedom. So this could be a pal too, where you feel like, where maybe you have put on a mask for a majority of your life, or maybe you are starting to see, like, maybe like you feel really good when you're by yourself, and then it's one of those things where you get out around other people and you're like, I don't like this. I just don't like how I feel, because you're still trying to appease and accommodate other people's realities. And it's like, I try not to speak so generally, but you know, if you're around other people that don't even know themselves anyways, then it's like, for what? For who are you trying to cater around? They don't even know themselves, right? And so it's just like, just do what you got to do to be who you are, you know, and the right people. It's like you're cutting out the detours when you do that, right? You're cutting out the people that are there for the wrong reasons or not for the right reasons, right? And you're just like, let's get straight to it. So let's get deeper into the tarot. You have Four of Wands. I feel like this is about finding your true home and creating your true home, creating your true community. Again, here, Four of Wands is like about a celebration. So celebrating who you are, celebrating everything about yourself, celebrating your day-to-day, right? Celebrating like those small wins that you do experience. Like when you're like, oh my gosh, I felt like that was a situation where in the past I would have A, B, C, or D. But instead I just like chose to relax instead of like going into my mind and becoming fucking neurotic and caring too much, because you can, you know, feel what other people are expecting, or you can feel the underlying social script that like most people are aware is there subconsciously and try to act off of. And it's like celebrating when you go off the script, and just like how light and organic and how free and fun it is when you go off script, right? And so I feel like you're being prepared for more situations like that, where it's like people remember you so much, you stand out so much because you're just different, because you're not trying to fit in, right? It's like that really funny scenario that happened recently where I was like within the same 2 days, this happened like a week ago, where in the same 2 days I had this was an organization that I stopped working for like over a year ago. And I had someone within the same 2 days, someone asked me to come teach for this organization again, right? And then 2 days later, one of my friends ran into someone from like the headquarters of the organization. So someone I actually didn't even know. He like took a picture. They like took a selfie because they were out partying. And I'm like, I don't even know this girl. So I'm like, I don't even know you and you're still talking shit about me. Okay, my name is in your mouth, so whatever. Someone asked me to come teach for them, and then someone within the same 2 days said that I was crazy, called me crazy, because essentially when everything with the pandemic happened, I had a lot of shit to say about it, and just based on my own intuition, and a lot of it didn't go along with mainstream narratives, right? And so you get called crazy, you get called all these different types of names, but at the same time, I've never felt more myself. And when I was filtering who I was, it's interesting because I saw my external reality reflected that, right? It felt constricted internally, and so my external reality was also constricted. But the more that I own who I am, and I say fuck when I want to say fuck, and I'm just like, you know, not trying to put on a show, not trying to appease people, and just like fit other people's reality of who I should be based off of what they perceive of me to be and the roles, the temporary roles I've adopted. It's like the more that I release and the more that I expand and just let that natural, my natural Marissa come out and all of her weirdness, it's like that I see that externally, and everything else is growing because of that, right? And every realm you can think of, it's growing, right? And so I am seeing this is not lip service. When I deliver you guys readings, I do my best to not paint a false reality that I actually haven't experienced myself, right? So yeah, we're in this together, and it becomes more free on every level. The more free you feel internally, it has no choice but to be reflected back to you externally. So what else is pile 2 being prepared for? 7 of Swords. Yeah, the sneaky ass, gossipy ass energy. This is very similar to pile number 1. There's a lot of purges happening for a lot of people in terms of relationships, in terms of people that don't get us, in terms of just like old paradigms in general. Spirit's like, we got to step it up, okay? We got to step it up. We got to stop, again, like it's like we're selling out on our mission when we are trying to accommodate people that are just like petty minded, you know, and they'll get where they need to be when they need to be there. But it's like, have boundaries, right? And just like, you know, say no when you mean it, say yes when you mean it. And the more that you go off script, and the more that you just be yourself, the more that life feels like a celebration, right? Everything feels like a celebration. Even when you have your inevitable moments of just like feeling down, and like you're just like, you know, if you're a woman, you're, you know, on your moon cycle, and just like honoring all of it. Honoring all, like, what the fuck is there to prove? You know, there's a sense of just like relaxation that comes from it, and that's where true charisma is born. It's like when you can tell people are not trying to prove anything, or just like, I just saw 11:11 on the clock. When you're not trying to prove anything, and you're just like, this is who I am. That's a natural charisma, because then that's like, even if something happens that's awkward in a conversation or something, just for like a small example, you would be the type of person, pile 2 would be the type of group to like play off of that and be like, okay, sorry, that was weird, right? You would call it out for what it is, because you don't make it mean anything about the truth of who you are, right? This is a new level of freedom that you guys are experiencing, facing your true north, right? This woman's like right on the edge of the cliff, and you're being prepared to like jump into the abyss of what happens when you just really own who it is that you came here to be, and own your soul stream, and really align with your blueprint. And if you are drawn to my motherfucking channel, you have very eccentric codes. Let me just say, you're not here to be the mainstream, right? And people are going to have a lot to say about it, but you know what? That's what I feel like instant karma really is. It's like, if people are gossiping about you, you can already tell instantly. You can see the paradigm. That's instant karma. Like, if you are gossiping about other people, and like wanting and judging them for who they are, and just like, you know, I can already feel the constriction that comes along with that. You can only imagine how the rest of their life is colored. They're probably miserable. They're probably, you know, judging themselves just as much. Like, how we express and how we relate to other people, and what we share with other people when we express ourselves. At the end of the day, when someone is like telling me something about someone else, seemingly, I'm like, all you're doing is telling me about your level of perception and your reality. You're not telling me anything about that other person, because I can already tell you're operating within veils of confusion. You're believing those veils to be true, right? And so I'm not going to take your word for them, and I'm not going to take your advice for anything, actually, you know, because beings that are really here on the path, and the beings that I look up to and that I take advice from, are beings that aren't going to perpetuate pettiness, that aren't perpetuating veils of confusion and veils of illusion, which eventually leads to suffering. I'm here to, you know, I'm here for truth. I'm here for freedom, like you guys are, pile number 2. This is what you're being prepared for. It's like being able to be like, you know, peace and love, but it ain't for me. Right? And just like really owning what it means to be a warrior of light, warrior of truth. And we're not here for pettiness, right? And because of it, it's like, yeah, with this enjoy growth and reaping rewards, I feel like this is not even necessarily like you're doing good, so you're being reflected back, like life is rewarding you. It's not, you know, I feel like that's still that old narrative of like God being a punisher, you know, the giver of good or the giver of punishment, right? But I feel like ultimately it really is, you will start to attract other people whose heart is at the same level of purity of you. And so they want to help you. They want to bring you the resources that you need when you need it. It's like this very equal give and take with other people, right? And so you're being prepared to see this more and more, because I feel like pile number 2, you're used to this. Pile number 2 is very used to this in their reality of being around gossipy people, and people always having something to fucking say about you. No matter what you do, someone's going to have something to say, you know? And yeah, again, it's all for growth. If we utilize it, everything that happens is either going to bind us to greater karma, or it's going to allow us to be set free, right? And so what you're being prepared for more and more, I feel like this is in a day-to-day thing of like, okay, does this feel constricting? Does this feel like it's binding me? Or does this feel free? And so you don't even have to do that like deep investigative work of like, what is this belief? You can feel it in your body. Is this in support of truth or in support of illusion, right? And then that's, you know what to do from there, right? So we have the Tower, what you're being prepared for. So there might be some sort of something in your current reality with this Four of Wands, something that's been part of your foundation for a while that, you know, comes crumbling, and it doesn't have to be negative, or something, just a sudden happening comes in that I feel like you have been prepared so much up to this point in time where something is being brought to the light or something is happening very quick. This could be internal, this could be external. I never mean for things to, if it was bringing up fear for you, disengage, turn it off now, right? But otherwise, just know that, especially with the Seven of Swords, it might be something that you're already intuiting, or just like, maybe it's like a group of people, or it's one person in particular that has been around for a while, or just like an organization, like my example earlier, that feels like it's been around for a while, right? And it's like something's going to come to the light where it just confirms that like you're beyond this, and you're like, it's time to fucking move on, because this is like not what I stand for. It's not, and you know, it could be good. We can leave these things, like just honoring whatever you feel is so important. Like when I left this organization, because it was like, on one level, it was like woke organization, but beneath the surface, it was like very petty and very gossipy and just like very, I don't know, there was some bullshit. They were great, right? There's good and bad to everything. But when I took a step away, I was like, okay, this is like wanting to be perceived from the outside as like a woke culture, and, you know, doing what they can to be perceived in a certain way. But internally, it just wasn't there, and it fell off, right? And so when I was like, would vent, and when I would just like, had to naturally let myself experience the amount of disillusion I experienced when I walked away and how I walked away, etc. And then just like everyone that I worked with having that, it was just interesting, because there were a lot of people that supported me. There were a lot of people that didn't work with me directly that supported me. I had a ton of people in my DMs being like, oh my gosh, I'm so grateful that you stood up in this way, and that you said what you said. Like, I'm so grateful. But then the people that like were at headquarters were the most offended, and the most like, I essentially got canceled without it being such a public thing, because that would have been like distorted their self-image, right? Their organizational image. So it all happened very fast. But at the same time, I felt like I was being prepared for it. At the same time, I knew that I was being prepared for this, because more and more I was owning my expression. And I feel like you guys are going to go through something similar, is why I feel like I'm being guided to use that example. Like when it was time for me to be like, this is what I do and do not fucking stand for, like I owned it, and it catapulted me into a level of just like freedom, and internal freedom and external freedom that I can't even describe, right? And I was it fearful? Was I scared? Hell the fuck yeah, I was. Because, you know, I was so used to my own environment dimming myself down to appease other people. And so it's not even necessarily, when I look back, it wasn't necessarily the fear. It wasn't necessarily fear so much as it was foreign, right? And so essentially this is all to say that there might be a healing process. And I'm sure some people were like, okay, you know, you kind of been talking about this a lot, but there was a lot I learned from it. And I needed to honor that process, right? I needed to honor the process of, you know, the disillusionment and, you know, the integration that came along with that. So, you know, whatever comes up, honor it, because I feel like there might be a little bit of that, even though you're already intuiting like, oh, this ain't it in some sort of area. I feel like this is definitely some sort of area, foundational aspect of your life, environmental aspect of your life that has like been there, and it provides some sort of like foundation. Could be a person, could be a job, whatever. But I feel like something's going to come to a head where like pretty quickly, where shit blows up, shit hits the fan or something, or it's just like very suddenly it's made very clear. And you've intuited this, but it's made very clear that it's like, I either sell my soul and stay here, or I have to fucking figure something else out, right? So you're going to have all you need. Pile number 2, you're being prepared for it. Literally, this is what you're being prepared for. And it's something that you probably already know. Tarot should never tell you something new. So either tuck this away in the back of your mind, or just release it if it doesn't feel like it's meant for you. But I don't feel like you'd still be here if that was the case. So pile 2, I'm going to leave this reading here for now. Please like, comment, share. I don't know why I said that. Like, comment, subscribe if you've been here before, and I hope to see you soon. Hey Pal 3, welcome to your reading for what it is that you are currently being prepared for. You guys had 3 oracles come up for this reading, and you had 3 tarot cards come up for this reading. So we're going to get into them real time together. I haven't looked at any of it. It's been fun doing it this way. I try to switch things up, you know what I mean? Keep it fresh. So what is it that Pal number 3 is being prepared for? Spirit, we have star bathing, light body, crystal grid, transmission, activation. Yes, okay. Before I even get into the other ones, this is very clear. You're being prepared for some type of initiation or activation. This is something that you've contracted with your higher self. This is something that is most likely going to activate you into a new level of power and existing that feels much more free, that feels much more authentic to who you are and who you came here to be. I feel like too, this is saying that, it's very exciting. I feel excited. So that's really good. And, whether it's good, whether it's something that we want, whether it's something uncomfortable in the moment or not, it's like, I say this from experience. I'm never going to say something with authority that I haven't experienced to be true, Pal number 3, but take my word for it. Whether it's wanted, whether it's very uncomfortable, whether it's like you're being publicly shamed and just like canceled, or think of the most distasteful situations that you would have chosen from this limited perspective. Like, I have seen that really, truly 100% life is only trying to set you free. Right. And especially if you only see that it's this one life, I could see how people might get swept up in the narrative as being true. But when you understand and when you deeply feel that this ain't it, that this is not just it, I'm not saying that this is bad, but it's just all experience. Right. And it goes on and on and on and on just for the sake of experience. Right. You don't take it so seriously. And you really do start to catch on like, oh my God, I really do see how it's all trying to set me free, because who do you think is creating this in the first place? It's your higher aspect, right? It's your higher self, like trying to show you where you're still denying your own light, right? It's trying to guide you back to your inherent light, like your future self, your higher self is trying to pull you towards that future light. And sometimes in order to see where we're still denying our own power and denying our own light, we have to have very uncomfortable catalysts. Uncomfortable from this level, but very necessary. And so you really do start to surrender. You live from the surrendered sense of like, whether it's good, whether it's bad, I know it's got my back. I know it's here to set me free. So that's what you're being prepared to see more. You're being prepared for an activation that's going to happen, or it might be currently happening. We're going to get deeper in. Spring, see your seeds grow. It's actually spring right now. We're just springing into spring, I should say. Moving into March. My nails are torn up, okay? So don't judge me. Yeah, I'm seeing the seed of life here. See your seeds grow. So there might be, like, with this activation, there might be something very sudden that happens. Like, maybe you guys have been working on something for a long time, like really watering your garden. The thing about seeds actually growing, and when you see it sprout finally, like the roots have already had to develop to a certain amount of a certain extent, a certain degree. Before you even see it sprouting at the top, the roots have had to go under very deep. So this could be saying that for some of you, you haven't really been putting yourself out there. You haven't really been like creating, and like you haven't really been like, you've been marinating in your own energy and your own truth and really getting to know the nature of reality. For some of you, right, you've just been marinating. And so now this activation is like, okay, now it's time to go. Now it's like, I'm going to start putting myself out there. And I feel like I'm at a place of maturity to where like, I can just tell it's that time. And for others of you, you've already been seeing certain sprouts. You've already been on this path for some time of planting seeds and going after your dharma and just following where you're guided to go. And I'm hearing that you're going to have a sudden influx of newness, of new sprouts, of just like really being reflected back to you, Pal number 3, how far you've come and just like how deep those roots are. And I feel like just a new level of just knowing you're locked in, just like that sense that you're locked in to what you're here to do. And I feel like you'll be receiving in whatever way success looks like for you. It's like there's going to be a sudden growth, a sudden leap, right? And with this hair, I feel like it's going to happen very fast. And so there can be like with that exciting energy, it could almost take you to an ungrounded state, right? So grounding is very important during this time. But yeah, I feel like it's all a reflection of the degree of internal freedom and expansion that you guys are feeling, right? It's seeing your seeds grow. The people that are drawn to my channel, you guys are really about it. You guys are really about it, and your hearts are in the right place, right? And so I feel like it's never, I really don't think it's necessarily that spirit rewards us or punishes us, but there does come to a point to where the scales tip to where our lessons don't have to be so hard. They don't have to be challenging. They don't have to be scary. They don't have to be these big tower moments like Pal 2, right? But it comes to a point those scales tip, and the way that we grow, the way that we integrate is a lot more positive, or like pleasurable. But it's not like it's pleasurable because we need it to be pleasurable. It's like we kind of get the gist of the game, and we're not really trying to run from things, or we're not led by like that primal nature so much as maybe we were before, right? And just like taking ourselves and life too seriously. And so pile number 3, I feel like there's a lot of like really desired reflections coming in, but again, you're at a place of maturity. I don't think you're going to get swept up in it, because you've been prepared, right? Because your guides have been with you every step of the way, really just fine-tuning your field in order to be able to hold the amount of success that you guys will be experiencing, either in the very near future or at some point down the road. Right, because again, this is a general reading, and I am getting a combination of both, but for majority, it's like this is going to be very soon, right? And again, it's not reward or punishment, but it's like you guys are at a level of your advancement where it's like you don't need that slap on the wrist, right? It's like that saying of the universe comes in quietly knocking at your door, and then it's pounding, and then it's fucking kicking it down like the feds are here, like what the fuck, what kind of operation you guys run here, right? And so you guys are past that. And they do become a lot more loving and a lot more gentle, because you're much more connected to the divine mind. And so you're going to make those tweaks at the first time you hear the whisper. And so you don't even need a knock at that point, right? Because you're very aligned, pile 3. So broken arrow, embrace the energy of peace. Yeah, this just reminds me, a surrender. This is absolutely driving home everything that I just said. It's like, you have nothing to prove. Pile number 3, you are being prepared for, you have been prepared for this. You have been being prepared for this more and more. I feel like if you guys chose pile number 5 in certain readings, you got to let me know, because I don't say this often in a lot of my readings, but it's about to pop off is what I'm hearing. And you guys have really come to a place of internal peace, of acceptance of yourself that is just like so freeing. Right? Star bathing. It feels like you're bathing in the cosmos themselves, and it's like you have nothing to prove. It's like that's going to be your dominant experience more and more, of just like it's all happening for me, where you don't feel like you're doing anything. You don't feel like you're lifting a finger, where you're just in a very surrendered state. And it's like, because you're in a surrendered state, because you're not resisting what you perceive as good, what you perceive as bad, you have space for grace. And so now you're much more likely to hear the divine mind, because you're peaceful. So you're going to act on your hunches. You're going to act on your nudges. You're not going to take as many detours, because your limited mind is getting in the way, thinking it knows what's best, right? And so it's like you've really locked into something. You're being prepared for this reality that really feels very dreamy, and it's very disconnected from the rest of like the average levels of consciousness on the planet. And when I say disconnected, it's in a positive way. It's very, you've created your own paradigm, your own heaven on earth, right? And you're the real deal, pile number 3. And most, we're all just at different journeys, and just whenever you're drawn to this video, this is probably going to be the more predominant energy in your experience. But yeah, embracing the energy of peace. There's nothing to prove. There's no competition, right? A lot of the previous 2 piles were about like being prepared to really step out of that paradigm of thinking about competition. But I feel like you guys pile number 3, you've already done that to a large extent. Like you don't believe in that, or you just let spirit work through you and guide you to where you need to be. And I feel like you don't really entertain those. Like you don't need me to sit here coaching you of how competition is not real, and jealousy is like, these are all ephemeral things that we can experience. But when your heart's in the right place, like I don't have to coach you guys this, right? You guys, this is stuff that I can feel and see that you guys are already embodying. You're really in your own lane, doing your own thing, right? And so the shit's about to pop off in a really great way. And it's like, the better it gets, the better it fucking gets, pile 3. And you guys would be the ones to tell me that before I could, right? Like you guys are living that life already. A lot of peace coming through. We have Ace of Swords. Hell yeah. There's so much clarity. You guys are operating through so much clarity. Like, you really have a great connection with a divine mind because we have Ace of Swords with the activation. I'm hearing there's going to be a lot of downloads, a lot of divine inspiration. Really acting on your hunches, right, is going to be, I feel like you don't even need me to, I'm like, do I need to say this? But I'm going to say it because it's what I'm being guided to say. But just acting on your hunches, right? What you're receiving, the downloads that you're receiving during this activation, like what you focus on, it's like the second you focus on it, it's going to be, you're going to be seeing it reflected in your reality some way, somehow. In those ways that you're like, what the hell? Was I really just thinking about this? Now I'm seeing a sign on the road that says this exact random ass thing that I was thinking of, that I'm like, why am I thinking of this? The second that you're like, why am I thinking of this? Be ready, right? Because Spirit's going to bring it into your reality in some sort of way to show you are on the right path. And you could even say from a different degree, that's your future self being like, you're on the right track. Continue to follow the trail because you're doing a brilliant job at it. And it's because you've really have done a good job, Pile 3, of extricating yourself from the mainstream. You've really done a really good job at following the divine plan of surrendering. I can't imagine what your what you guys do, and just like how different it probably is, but also how free, right? Because it's really something that you've chosen. And at the very least, this is, for very few of you, this is what you're being prepared for, right? To where it really does feel like you're living your own divine reality. And to some degree, you probably already are, but it's just going to get more wild and more of just like, there's no question of like how this is being created. You know, it's not you. You're like, my hands are not in this, and it's only because I've done enough to like leave space for grace, to where Spirit is coming through and just really working through me. And I'm just like, I'm just the witnessing factor to all of this bounty. Next, we have the Six of Swords. So yeah, for some of you, it's been a long time coming. For some of you, it's like you have, I feel like one of the reasons why it feels so good and how I'm channeling this and why it feels so profound is because you've had that contrast of like what it means to live with an arrow and feeling like you have to protect yourself and feeling like whatever. Like, I'm not saying that when you're in a peaceful state that you're not going to show your teeth and you're not going to bare your teeth and you're not going to be guided to act in very bold ways sometimes. That's not what I'm saying. But the place you're doing it from is a lot different, right? It's not coming from a place of defensiveness so much as it is coming from a place of being aligned with that Shakti energy, right? And you know, the infinite intelligence itself, right? Infinite intelligence is always going to keep things in balance. It's always going to keep things harmonious. And so if people or things or situations are drawing forth a side of you that needs you to bare your teeth, and at the very least, in those some senses, use your motherfucking teeth, you're going to use them, right? And so it's not like sometimes we feel like when we're tapping into peace. I actually was talking to a friend about this because she saw a situation in her external reality where some woman was being yelled at, and just like there was like a huge crowd around her outside of a store, and her like boyfriend was like yelling at her, and my friend was like, is he about to hit her in front of all of us? And she talks a lot about peace. She has her own platforms, and she like talks a lot about the things that I talk about. And she reached out about how she yelled at this dude. And you could tell there was a little bit of guilt because like on some level, she's like, I'm a teacher. I teach about peace. Literally, I teach about peace. And I was like, I think that was born from your peace, right? And I've had situations too where there was a point a few years ago, it was like 5 years ago, that I Ubered, and that was so fun. But I was Ubering people, and then I was doing like food drop-offs too. And I went to this food place, and this older lady, it was like in the middle of the day, this older lady was there, and she was like yelling at these teenagers who worked there that were just doing their job. Like, these poor kids were getting this woman's entire life's misery projected onto them in some moment. And the gateway was just about the rice not being prepared or something. And I went to my car. I was like, I'm going to leave it alone. It's none of my business. Went to my car, and I felt this whoosh of like, I couldn't control it. And I felt like I was very divinely guided through the amount of peace that I had been accessing even at that point in my incarnation. That I marched back in, and I was like, it is not okay for you to be talking to them like this. And I put myself in a position that it seemed like I wasn't creating to peace, but I was being guided to reestablish harmony. And sometimes reestablishing harmony is being like, you can't fucking talk to people like this. You can't do this. This is not right. Like, what makes you feel like you have the authority to impose onto people's realities in this way? right? And so when I say this level of peace, it's like, again, but if we, and this is what I told my friend, if I had an idea that peace looks a certain way, I would probably convince myself out of it. But this is what you're being prepared for, a new level of surrender. Just like, Gandhi said, my commitment is to truth, not to consistency. So some days my peace is going to look and be very peaceful according to peaceful standards, right? And some days it's going to look like my teeth are showing and I will use them if I have to, right? And so I feel like you guys have been, it's like that meme that's like when you were a thug before you were a light worker, and it's like SpongeBob that's like, try me, beloved. Some of them say, try me, bitch. But some of them are like, try me, beloved. I feel like that's the energy with the six of swords coming through. It's like, I am where I am and I have that contrast, but like now I know how to use, you're breaking out of constructs, right? And you're doing what you need to do when you need to do it, and just like releasing ideas of why you're being guided to do it, right? And you can be doing things that seem unpeaceful on the surface level that are born from your divinity and are born from the divine plan and how, the divine puzzle piece that you're supposed to play in that moment. So you're being prepared to understand this more and more, right? And yeah, that was a tangent. So maybe some of y'all needed to hear that just as a reminder in your own life. Let go of what it should look like, and just, again, you're being prepared to be more present and much less thinking that the why, and trusting if it's what you did, it was what needed to be done in that moment, whether for your learning or whether for the collective learning in that moment. That's something else I told my friend. I was like, and something I did too. Like in that moment, by us both sticking up for those other people, where most people were standing back not doing anything, we just showed other people that when you see shit like that happening, that's not okay, and it's not okay, fucking say something, and you can, right? And then this woman had that contrast of like, oh, I am worthy to be stood up for. Like no one's ever stood up for me before, and the other people watching that didn't do anything, maybe they did want to do something, so next time they're gonna actually do something. It's like this butterfly effect, and there's this web of interconnectivity that we don't even know, we can't even begin to conceive from this level. That just by you playing your part, honoring your part, you don't know all of the ifs, ands, whys, of why you need to do it, but just honoring that, right? And letting, sometimes spirit will give you glimpses, and sometimes you'll be able to learn, and you can even intuit the why you were guided to act a certain way and for certain reasons, but just keep in heart, you're never going to know the extent of it, right? Just honor it. So next we have Ace of Cups. Yeah, Ace of Swords and Ace of Cups. This is a new level of just like, man, yeah, so this activation might come in the form too of just like feeling so in love with life in general, like where you just like feel like you are in love with everyone. This could, for some of you, what you're being prepared for is a new romance, a new friendship, just new connections. I feel like overall, people that are like-minded, people that are able to perceive through your lens of perception. But I feel like just overall, you just feel very in love with people, and there's a state of gratitude that you guys are feeling more and more, that you're being prepared for, along with this activation that I feel like on some level can feel very intense, but it's just like an activation of heart and crown is really what I'm getting with this Ace of Swords and Ace of Cups. So heart activation, crown activation. So like with your heart open and the crown open, it's going to be really easy, again, to ground these things to where you're thinking something, spirit is giving you something, your future self is communicating something to you, and you see it very rapidly because you are on a very accelerated timeline, my pile number 3, and it's only going to get faster from here. So again, doing your best to release your ideas of how things should look, of how things should be, whether releasing ideas of good or bad, because like, when you really start to tap more into seeing through the eyes of God, you know that that's not real. Good and bad is not real. Good and evil is not real. It's a man-made construct. But when you're operating from more expanded lenses of perception, you understand it's all necessary. It's all the play. It's all Maya. If you deem it good, if it's happening on the level of form down to your thoughts, it's not lasting. It's not true. It's not rooted in truth. Truth is what is unchanging. And so you guys are getting ready to operate more from those levels. And man, you guys are teachers of teachers, and I can only imagine how this is being communicated in your everyday life, because there is a lot here about communication, whether verbally or just energetically. But I'm going to leave this reading here for now, pile number 3. Thank you for tuning in. Please like, comment, subscribe, and I'll see you soon, hopefully. What's up, group number 4? Here is your reading for what it is that you are being prepared for. You guys had 3 oracles come up and 4 tarot cards. I haven't looked at any of them. We're going to get into it real time together. So here we go. What is it that pile number 4 is being prepared for? Get your little claws. There we go. My husky's in here. Earth. Not surprised this card comes up so much in my readings because I know y'all little celestial beings out there don't like being here. Learning how to be human in the world, but not of it. Maybe sometimes you like being here. I like to joke with you guys. Okay, I feel like we're on that level where you get when I'm joking, when I'm being serious. Okay, deep cellular healing. This also reminds me of activation, which pile number 3 had the card of activation, but this card always reminds me of that as well. My nails are funky, so I'm a human. Okay, I'm learning how to be human. My nails look like this. Okay, Arcturus energy, physical and emotional healing. Okay, this could have to do with like addressing some sort of trauma that's happened to you guys, or just like understanding the validity of experiencing trauma. And we have one more, but I just got to get this out. Understanding that, you know, if you have been through trauma, doesn't matter how tuned in you are, that is going to color your experience in a certain type of way, and that it is a valid part of your experience. And you know, there was a period where I was working with spiritual teachers in the beginning of my awakenings that it was very clear they had never been through trauma, or like not to the degree that, like, you know, when you're scared to go home after school because you don't know what type of abuse is happening there, or like what you're going to walk in on, you know, and you don't like being at school because you're being bullied there, and then you don't want to go home. You know, this is what I'm talking about, where it feels very fearful, in the years where it's very important for you to feel secure. Right? This is what I mean, because that does that does flavor your experience. And so when you're around beings that encourage spiritual bypassing, it's just like you are a house divided against yourself. So what you guys are being prepared for is there's tools, there's a teacher, there's someone that's coming in that is going to help you understand your trauma, not only understand the validity of it, but how to work through it. And so how you can accept yourself and see how that was a necessary part of your incarnation. At the very least, maybe you'll even start to intuit why it was necessary and how it's part of your overall plan and like what you're here to contribute to the planet. But I am hearing that, you know, it's important to acknowledge it as a very valid part of your experience and that you didn't do anything wrong. This is not getting a punishment for something bad you did in a different life. You didn't deserve it on that level. And I feel like this, you know, what trauma tends to do too is suffering catalyzes us to ask questions. So you're being prepared to ask certain questions about certain things for certain reasons that I can get into a general broad scope of it with you, Pal 4, but there's a lot more that this is going to catalyze you to understand within yourself and to understand about the psyche of humanity, about darkness, about confusion, about veils of illusion, why people do things. And so it's very relevant for your entire life's blueprint. But I do feel like this has to do with things that you went through early incarnation. This could even be, you know, even into our adulthood. Sometimes we get drawn into narcissistic dynamics. Like we could have had really great childhoods. And I've seen this to where adults can have really great upbringings. And then for whatever reason, they're drawn into like a very narcissistic dynamic, very highly abusive dynamic when they're older, and create a fuck ton of trauma as an adult, right? So doesn't matter where your entry point is, but understanding, and I'm not saying, I don't want to say if that you are being prepared for this type of trauma. I'm just giving different examples because ultimately, what is that word? What does that mean? It's just like something has happened in your life to make you deeply feel psychologically, emotionally, physically unsafe. Right. And so it's relative to, it's a very subjective experience. Okay. So not comparing it, not saying, you know, not being like, oh, well, so-and-so went through this. Do I have any reason to like feel this? Like honor your experience. Right. So yeah, we're going to move on here. Yeah. Physical and emotional healing for you guys. The thing too with trauma in my experience is that's where that scattery energy comes from. In my Ayurveda, me studying Ayurveda, my teacher, we call it an extensive amount of Vata energy. What is Vata energy? Vata energy is if we acknowledge that this planet, everything is made up of the elements, including our psychological state is akin to the elements that are making up our psyche and even our bodies. So if there's a lot of air element is a lot of anxiety, right? It's a very ungrounded element. Air and ether is Vata energy. Air and ether element is what we call Vata in Ayurveda. And so that can leave an individual feeling very ungrounded, very disconnected from their body. And generally, even if you haven't been through a ton of stuff, if you just have a lot of air in your charts, for example, in your astrological charts, if you feel very anxious, right? This is the age of Aquarius, which is Vata dosha, air and ether, right? So already in our experience, we have a lot of air as a collective, and then especially adding on to that, any type of trauma you went through unintegrated as a child, that's a lot of that scattered ether. I need to leave my body because it's not safe to be here in my body in a human vessel. That's even more of that air and ether element, right? And so it's just seeing these things for what it is, not necessarily attaching your identity to it, but understanding it's a relevant part of a human incarnation. So how do I address it, right? So I can experience more freedom. So I am seeing with learning how to be human, that's a very common thing when people who have experienced, have had any type of experience where it felt very not safe to be in their body, that we create a disconnect of not being in the body. And so I feel like you guys are being prepared for really coming into your body more, understanding what happened, and not pointing the finger, not blaming, because again, when you're catalyzed to ask the deeper questions of life, right, you start to see why people do things on a psychological level, but most importantly on a spiritual level. Especially if you're drawn to my channel, that's just, hey, Pow 4, I was cut off. So I remained very calm because these electronics have been pissing me off. But I do know too, I do start to tune into, or something I've noticed is that the more potent my delivery becomes, the more likely I am to have like electronical stuff be weird. So I don't know if it's just like the power of connecting with your guides, of the message coming through or what, but I'm just like, whatever. Ultimately though, you know, what you guys are being prepared for is understanding this trauma to a way that I feel like it's going to feel like the scales have finally tipped in terms of it's not a predominant sense of your reality. Because again, when there's a lot of that unaddressed Vata energy, that unaddressed air and ether and overabundant amounts, we can tend, just like everything is colored with that sense of it's not safe to be here. So what you're being prepared for is learning that you are indeed safe to be here, and at the very least to see how it wasn't an accident, right? And that these lifetimes, the suffering we go through, the suffering other people go through, it's like it is selected in a way that we can't even begin to conceive from this level, but we can trust. And I feel like in some sense, the beings that are drawn to my channel too, I do know that you guys are out there in your communities, you guys are teachers, you guys are leaders. So it is imperative that we know people, that we have teachers on this planet that have actually, you know, who have been through it. So again, we don't have these experiences like I had, you know, again, in my early awakenings where I felt like there was deeply something wrong with me because it seemed very easy for people to exist. And it was like, it was a point to even having conversations with people was extreme for me. And it was very brutal in terms of my self-esteem. Like my self-esteem was already shot at that point, but adding, you know, like, what is that saying? It was just like adding lemon and salt onto like an open wound, right? It just like wasn't doing any justice. What is that phrase? Okay, I'm going to move on. That's going to irritate me. But, you know, at the very least, I feel like it's to help people understand, because there is a lot of trauma cords that are being activated on this planet at this time. And so just being able to navigate that energy, those elemental energies, is really important. Okay, so your last oracle here, unlock the magic within, magic guardian. So yeah, you're being prepared to, I feel like the more that you ground and come into your body, you're just going to see just how powerful you are, because I feel like in some sense, maybe you have not felt that way. Like you guys are powerful beings. That's very clear, especially both of these look like they have wings. Like you guys have very angelic energy. And when I see very angelic energy, that's like, just tells me you guys are beings that operate very naturally within higher densities, and it's more like the realms of the unseen are much more real to you than the realms that are seen, right? Very empathic, highly sensitive, intuitive type of individuals. And so you're being prepared to see just like how by coming into your body, by feeling safe again, you're going to be catalyzed, right? Addressing this trauma and like doing breath work, doing Kundalini yoga, whatever it is, whatever that allows you to feel your body and to be present and to heal your nervous system. That's essentially what it is. Your nervous system / subtle body has been altered, right, has been deeply altered and affected. And it's okay to acknowledge that and not feel like a victim at the same time, right? And so if anything, you guys are just like, you know, my experience again was trying to bypass because I didn't think it had to be. I thought, okay, it's not a reality if I don't think it is, right? But like, no, it's experientially, it is, and it's okay to acknowledge it. And it doesn't mean you're a victim. It doesn't mean you're, damaged goods. Like, all of us are to some degree, and none of us are leaving this world unscathed, okay? I don't care who the fuck you think you are. We're all, 50 shades of fucked up, okay? So, yeah, I feel like the more you come into your body, the more relaxed you feel, you're going to see just how incredibly powerful you are. And I feel like a lot of your life you felt disempowered because of these experiences that you went through. You felt like things were very out of your control. You felt very unsafe, very out of your power, right? Out of control. And so maybe you learned some defense mechanisms up to this point in time to make you feel safe. Very naturally so. Don't judge yourself. Like, those are needed, especially if you were in abusive, toxic situations. Like, it is very essential that you have those protection mechanisms, right? As you learn to see, okay, who is deserving and worthy of me letting my guards down and who's not, right? Honor that. It has honestly saved me from some incredibly terrible situations. Honoring that and not being like, well, trying to like justify my way out. No, if your alarm bells go off, honor them, yeah, so I feel like you're going to see just how powerful you are. And maybe it's been frustrating for some of my pile number 4s because you're so tuned in. You have your crown has been open and activated. Your psychic gifts are off the chart. That generally does come along with trauma and really having to deeply sense what's actually going on within the mental, emotional, spiritual body of someone else versus just what their like gross actions are doing and saying, right? Like their very obvious actions, I should say. And so now that you're coming into your body, like, shit's about to pop off. I said that in pile 3. It's like, I don't say this a lot, but I'm saying this here too. Shit's about to pop off for my pile number 4s because you guys are incredibly powerful. And you're going to see how it was all part of your divine blueprint. When I see this overhead, I'm like, that reminds me of what a blueprint looks like, right? And so you're unlocking that blueprint and you're unlocking the freedom that comes with acknowledging and understanding and just like owning this incarnation and everything that has led you up to this point in time. So let's get into the tarot cards. We have Ace of Pentacles. So yeah, you're going to feel brand new start. There's more earth energy coming in. So even more confirming this sense of staying in your body, staying grounded, being more active, like honoring your human incarnation, being human, right? It's okay to be human. Like, being here is not an accident. You are meant to be here. And you're going to see that more and more. Queen of Wands. So yeah, I feel like the more that you come into your body, yeah, this has definitely been my experience too, that, when there's a lot of that anxious type of energy, it's like when we feel very like, when we've had experiences to where we feel scared, right? Where we have felt very scared, it's like we're afraid to be bold, or we're afraid to like, when we learned that earlier in our incarnation, it's, we can't say something that's going to tick someone off. But when you come into being an adult, it's like we can still subconsciously play from those narratives of like, I don't want to say something to tick someone off because I don't know what they're going to do. Right. And it's a very subconscious thing that can happen. But as you restore your subtle body and your nervous system, you're going to be much more bold, and it's going to feel so fucking good. It feels so magical. It really does. Like with this Queen of Wands and the unlock the magic within, it feels so magical to be like, if I feel like saying fuck off to someone and I say it, like, and you can like, again, just honoring the fact that karma is going to look different for everyone. But because I'm seeing into your blueprint, and I'm seeing this is a very relevant part of your exploration, then I can say this confidently to you guys. I wouldn't say this confidently to someone who has very narcissistic tendencies. I would not give this advice to them, right? Because they probably need to do the opposite of this and humble themselves, right? But you guys have been humbled by life. You've, like, in the beginning, that's part of your blueprint, probably for a reason, because you guys are very powerful. And so it's like, you know where you came from, and you're not going to abuse your power, right? But it's like, when you have this background and these codes of feeling so like letting people walk all over you and so unable to stick up for yourself, when you finally get to that point to be able to say fuck off to fuck off to someone's face, and you might not use those words, maybe you do, but when you finally do are able to stand up for yourself because those scales are starting to tip. It feels so fucking good. It's so magical. And that's what you guys are being prepared for. That's what you're being prepared for sure. And just understanding how all of these color our reality, all of these subtleties and things, color our experience. I heard someone say, like, someone in my DMs said to me, I love your readings because it seems like you're talking to our higher selves and not like, she just said that. And what I loved about that is, like, I tend to speak from the level of the soul for a reason. Because it's like a breath of fresh air when you're around people so much that are so caught up in the level of the personality, but a deeper part of you knows that there's so much more beyond it. It's like drinking that most refreshing glass of coconut milk on a hot summer day, right? So cooling. It's so nourishing to every level. But this is what you guys are being guided to, is seeing things much more from you already do see things from the level of the subtle realms, but experiencing that mending and that soul retrieval and being able to work and walk other people through too. I'm hearing some of you guys might even go into these fields and help other people that have been through, whatever unique trauma you've been through as like a survivor of whatever you've been through. You might even go into the field. You might even be working in those fields now or drawn to them now. But you understand that you have to go through your own process of healing before you do that. And so I'm hearing that as you learn how to heal your own nervous system and subtle body, you are going to like fall in love with those methods and develop. Some of you even develop with this Queen of Wands and the Unlock the Magic, like develop your own way to do it. That's really going to change like hundreds, if not thousands of people's lives, right? So let's see what else we have. Three of Wands. Yeah, new adventures. So unlocking the magic, like when we see it, when we're not getting lost in the narrative, we're not getting lost in like, why did this happen to me? And we're also not getting lost in like the, why did this have to happen to me? Like in terms of like, it feels like a nuisance. Like not only did it happen, but you're like, what, like, it's not that you are lost in it from the sense of being like, feeling like, oh, why did this happen to me? But it's like, why the fuck? Like this is getting in the way of my mission, right? I'm here for so much bigger. Like the beings that are just like such powerhouses that like, you're like, this is getting in the way. Right? You're going to see how with all this fire, I can tell already, if you guys don't have a lot of fire in your chart, like you are about what your mission, you are about what you're here for. And this has felt like a nuisance, right? Your human quirks, your human personality, these very human experiences that have felt like they've limited your power and your potential. You are going to see them from a different perspective to where you see how it is only added to your magnificence. Right? And so this is powerful. So it's going to lead you into new horizons. Change maker for sure. This is very relevant and you're going to see that if you don't already, right? But at the very least, it's about just like, beginning that journey of healing, not rushing it either. The Magician, whew, powerful, 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 powerful. My pile number 4s. Yeah, the resources are coming to you. We have the Magician, right? Magic. And then we have the Magic Guardian. So all of this is just like spirit really just driving home the point of none of it was an accident. It was created by you on a higher level, right? And also too, I feel like the more that you do come into your body and the more that you don't like just owning it. I remember I felt so uncomfortable and like I felt like I needed to prove myself and like I had a certain level of resentment for people that could just like do normal things like have conversations or talk in a group of people just about themselves, like normal things. That felt so just like alarming to the entirety of my being. And I didn't realize how much, and not only that, but I was like, this is getting in the way. I also had that of like, this is fucking stupid. I shouldn't have to like deal with this. I know what the fuck is up. But when you know what the fuck is up and your experience is different, that can create so much frustration. And so you are learning how to work with that. Right? And it's meant to catalyze you in a certain way because it was part of your foundation and part of your blueprint for a reason, okay? Because you were meant, I hear in a big way, you were meant to change really deeply, holistically, transform people's lives on a very powerful level, okay? And so as you begin this journey, as you begin to address it, it is going to be like your unique signature is going to be someone that like is just like so compassionate, right? So like loving. Your heart is open, but at the same time, you're just like so wise and so tuned in and so like holistic, right? Not thinking that you become more divine by denying your humanity. You actually recognize God more the more that you embrace your humanity, you understand it more, right? The more that you lean into your human experience, the more that the very subtle and loving way that joy permeates this entire existence is revealed to you. 1333 on the motherfucking clock. 333. So you're working with powerful beings, like ascended master type things, right? You're not defected. This is not karma for doing something bad. At the very least, the more advanced souls take on more karma for the planet, and they, more advanced souls take on more karma because they can handle it without binding themselves, right? Not only can they handle it, but they can handle it in a way where they don't create more karma for future generations and for themselves. It's because you're so powerful. You've already done so much unearthing in other incarnations. The likelihood of you getting caught up in it is it's there, but it's not likely. That probability is always there, but it's not likely for my pile number 4s especially. And so, like, if you have been through a lot, it's because you could handle a motherfucking lot. And it's also too because, like, the most powerful light workers, how do you change a system is from the inside out. You had to take it on. As you transmute it within yourself, you make it easier for other people to do the same. And this is not just an internal thing that you're doing, this alchemy that's happening. I mean, you guys are going to be teaching this. You guys are going to be speaking and teaching and hosting workshops or something, I swear, like working with clients in some type of way that has to do with this, or at least working with an organization that is about it, right? So I'm going to leave this reading here for now, pile number 4. Thank you for being here. Thank you for your service. Many blessings on your journey. Please like, comment, whatever you're guided to, subscribe if you're guided to do that, and I hope to see you soon. Hey, pile 5, welcome to your reading for what it is you are being prepared for. You have 2 oracles came up for you guys and 3 tarot cards. We're going to get into it real time together. I haven't looked at your cards yet. These have been incredible. Thank you for being here. If you have been to my channel before, thank you for being part of this incredible community of powerful way showers. People with BDE, okay? Big destiny energy. Okay, so what it is that you guys are being prepared for. Surrender to the sweetness, Venus energy, pleasure, joy, make love to life. This is beautiful. It was only about time. Like, we needed it. They were getting more and more serene, but it started off a little bit dense, but now it's getting lighter. It's been only getting lighter. Spirit Fox, trust your talents in changing times. Okay. What you're being prepared for right away, you guys are, I can intuit and feel that you guys are being prepared to a much more profound degree, letting spirit guide your way. So you guys are a pile that you're probably already in many ways working on, or if not fully, like partially disconnected from the matrix, or at least working to be like somewhat disconnected. You are fully, right? Or beings that are fully disconnected, and you're really doing your own thing in your own way, according to your own blueprint, like what's relevant for you in your incarnation, right? This game is not a one size fits all. So freedom to one might look completely different to freedom for another, but this is a group where you're really honoring what freedom looks like to you, and working towards that, and doing your best to align more towards that holistic freedom, which is relying on your talents and your gifts that I'm hearing are coming online more and more, and is a big part of why you took birth at this time on the planet, where, there's always been, Earth has always been popping off, right? Earth has always been insane, and, it's a schoolroom, right? So it's always been crazy, but it's fucking insane right now, right? I think we can all agree on that. At the very least, shit's popping off. And so you've been prepared literally, not just like lifetimes, for this being here on the planet at this time. And so you are creating your own, like, heaven on earth. Look at this. Ooh, I didn't even, okay. Hello, sweetness. Like, I'm hearing that holistically with this Venus energy. Like, this is all about creating your own communities, your own paradigm, your own heaven on earth, right? Making love to life. So I feel like this is being very harmoniously engaged with what's happening on the planet. Like, not burying your head, of course, but also understanding that the narrative can be there, right? The lines can be there, but how you choose to color it in is up to you, right? And I feel like what you guys are being prepared for, what you've been prepared for throughout lifetimes, and what you're really being prepared for right now too, is that, you can really create your own separate reality. Like, we all do. Like, even if sometimes it feels like our paradigms and our realities are overlapping, or we can agree on certain points, like, we are all already living in our own delusional, like, separate reality bubble. all right, based off our beliefs. That creates our paradigm, right? If you want to learn more about it, I've made a whole video on my other channel about paradigms, all about densities and what a paradigm is, how we make paradigms, right? And how to make a paradigm leap, so into a more expansive, loving, harmonious paradigm. You guys might want to check that out, because that's what you're being prepared for. You're about to make a leap into a much more harmonious, loving, expanded paradigm where you're making the rules and you're not taking the cues from the outside in. You're making it from the inside out. Like, is this what feels loving? Is this what feels the most joyful? Is this what feels the most harmonious to what I'm here for? Does this back what I'm here for? Does this back my own beliefs systems, my morals, my values, right? And so I feel like you're being prepared more and more to live in a reality that feels very different from where the majority and average levels of consciousness that the rest of people on, the majority of the planet are living in. And honestly, it's becoming much more available to us to live like beings that naturally are already in much more expanded and bright light paradigms. It's only going to get brighter because more people are waking up. So those average levels of consciousness for the rest of the planet are actually shifting. It's becoming more expanded, right? Lighter. I'm getting goosebumps because it's exciting, because where the average level is at, we're only as fast as our slowest player, right? And so the higher paradigms become much more accessible, even higher paradigms to people already operating in brighter paradigms and densities. It becomes much more accessible, right? So you're being prepared for that. Like, it is going to feel like you're just, I'm feeling it, man. Like, and I don't know if it's because I've been in a channeling state for like well over an hour or what, but it really feels like blissful. And it's a subtle thing. It's like where it's almost like if you've done psychedelics, like you see more of the color spectrum. It's not that it doesn't exist or you're making it up. It's like it's there, but our senses limit it, right? And so you see more of the color spectrum. You feel more that joy is literally what permeates all of existence, and what keeps us from accessing that is our own obstructions, our own internal distortions that keep us from experiencing that. Right? But I'm hearing that you have been doing a lot of unearthing, a lot of clearing. That's what's making you such a boss, like stepping more into your power, stepping more into your authenticity, stepping much more into your uniqueness, right? Physically, I'm hearing even too, like your physicality is upgrading. Like I'm hearing like cunning as a fox, right? Like knowing how to, you're not like jumping through loopholes in a way that is like, in a way that is disruptive to your integrity of being truthful. But I'm hearing that you're just learning how to play the system. You're just learning how to play the game from a level of integrity where you're not getting swept up in it, right? But you're just like, all right, I'm just going to utilize my cards, like really looking at the cards you have and playing them to the best of your ability. And because you're honoring what's in your hands, and you're not like, oh wait, can I see what's in yours? Or oh wait, can I actually trade this card out? It's like you're just like, what do I have? Because we all have a unique deck. We all have a unique spread. And the more that you honor that and you just like really surrender to the sweetness and just like, and how unique and different and eccentric your life is, like the more that you can honor that. And oh my God, you just like, I have moments these days where I'm just like, I'm so grateful. Like my life is so weird. My life is so different. And I'm sure people from the outside looking in would be like wonder like how I could be so happy and so grateful, but it's because I'm honoring the cards in my hand, and those cards were given to me by my higher self. And because I'm honoring them and I'm playing them to the best of my ability, of course I'm going to enjoy the game because I created it, And so the same for you guys. You're really seeing how you created this game. You're going to lean more on your talents. You're like, all right, I'm not going to bullshit anymore. I'm not going to play small anymore. I'm really going to do my motherfucking thing. And because of it, there's such this this Venus energy, pleasure, joy, like you're making love to life. Wow, this is wild. This is just like, trust your talents in changing times. Like no matter what happens too, because there's a lot up in the air on the planet right now, no matter what happens, I feel like because you're like absorbed in codes that are very like sourceful, like source codes, it's like you are going to be looked to. People are going to be like, okay, what is Pal 5 doing right now? People are going to come to you for advice even more. They probably already do because you're just like very wise being. You have done a lot of clearing of illusion, right? You see what the fuck is up. And so people are going to rely on you even more, right? And so it's, very essential that you stay tuned into your source codes and your own reality and what's possible, what you've made possible. People are going to look to you even more. So let's get deeper in with the tarot. So what you're being prepared for, 5 of Swords. Yeah. So if you are literally like, if you have remnant codes of feeling like left out in the cold, or like there's a lot of integration from feeling isolated, from feeling outcast, from feeling like you didn't have enough on whatever level that is. Like, I feel like that is finally being absorbed into the light, and it's not going to hold. I'm getting goosebumps everywhere. Like, I feel like for you guys, it feels so good because you can acknowledge and you see how the scales have finally tipped in terms of, even if these remnant codes of like, okay, do I have enough money for this? Like, even if those are remnant, you're not taking your cues from fear anymore. And you're like, as long as I'm doing my best to align to something greater than me, as long as I'm playing my cards to the best of my ability, I can trust I will be taken care of. And these are the type of beings, these are the type of leaders that this planet needs the most right now. Not taking the cues from the outside and from people that are, acting out of their fucking petty ass egos, right? We need people that are aligned to something greater than themselves, and that alignment greater than themselves acknowledges everyone else that is going to be affected, right? And so I feel like you're going to be bringing a lot of light to a lot of beings that need a lot of light at this time. You do it naturally. There's nothing you have to change. But I am hearing, if anything, you're being prepared even more to lean on your talents, to lean not on your own understanding. So that means your limited mind that tries to suggest that, you should be, honor where you're at, but that you should be more careful with A, B, C, and D. And understanding that if it feels exciting, if this is what is deeply being called for me and it doesn't make sense, I've done this before myself. Like, I literally one time had I think I had $700 This is at a different time, right? 10:10 on the clock. Yeah. Huge transformations, huge karmic patterns ending. But I had $700 in my savings account. And this was a time, man. This was 6 years ago. And Lee Harris was coming into town, and it was a $400 ticket, right? And I was like, do I do it? And my higher self, my conditioned self was saying, you're this, but I knew I had to be there. And I swear to God, that changed my life. Those 2 days changed my life. And I'll never, I got to have a moment with Lee where there was something that he said to me that to this day, I will never forget him saying to me. And he planted a seed that I so needed at a certain time that I owe so much of my own confidence and belief in myself to be who I am now from that one interaction, right? So trust life, right? Trust the more expanded version of you is what you're being prepared for more and more. And so doing that in big and small ways, right? Because I see how when I look back and the ways that I did that in the smaller ways where I'm like, okay, either way I'm going to be supported, right? It might not be my money, but I know people got my back, right? I know I have cushions, right? If I needed it, I would never be without, right? So honoring my cards, I was honoring my cards. But at the same time, I needed to take those leaps within my own paradigms because they start to add up and you start to gain evidence. So when this limited mind starts to come up and say, oh, but wait, then a higher part of your mind is like, oh yeah, I remember I felt this in the past before. And when I didn't lean on it and I did something else and I leaned on my higher understanding, it actually worked out so much better, right? So you're gathering evidence at this point in time to make even greater leaps as you move forward, pile number 5. Next, we have 6 of Pentacles. So yeah, this definitely tells me that that's interesting that I was reading this as the 5 of Pentacles. But this is being let down, not just, this just talks about fears and anxieties in general. But I feel like for a lot of you, it could most certainly have to do with the times on the planet. I did not even see until now that it was the 5 of Swords. Because I was about to say there's a lot of pentacle energy coming through. But this just confirms it. Can I really trust my talents to give me back what I need? But it's we're moving into an era and a time, and we're moving into paradigms where the form of currency on our planet is shifting big time. I mean, that's something that I'm all right, I need to learn from, teach me NFTs, teach me all this stuff, because this is where we're going, right? But I mean, times are changing, right? So change with the times, and understand that when you are giving from a place of really wanting, doing things to uplift the rest of humanity, you will always be taken care of. You will always be taken care of when you are coming from a place of where you genuinely want to help other people. You genuinely want to give back, right? These are my light workers. You will always be taken care of. I promise you. I don't know what your cards are. I don't know how it's going to look uniquely in your own life, but I just have seen in my own life, and I've heard hundreds of testimonies in other people's lives. It will always work out. trust. Okay. There's a lot of deprogramming that's happening on the planet at this time. So, you know, if there's a lot of those, you know, it's being honest about where you're at. But again, this is like, I love that it's the swords. I love, now more than anything, I love that it's the swords and it's not the pentacles, because this tells me it's more conceptual than anything. It's more in your mind than anything, right? But it could have had roots in beliefs that seemed to, like, in a reality that seemed to confirm whatever beliefs that, you know, are kind of like undoing themselves now, right? Those scales are finally tipping. And so I do see this woman, I almost see this as like, you're giving something and people are giving what they can back, right? And even if people can't give back, it's not about money, right? It's not about fucking money. It's not about finances. That's not true prosperity. And you guys are being prepared to see that more and more of like, wow, it just feels so good to do this. What can you do that you would be doing it? Even if you, like, if you had all of your needs met, what would you be doing? Because you know you need to be doing something to give back to the planet. Like for my light workers, it's like you got to be doing something. Even if you don't have to financially, you have to spiritually. You have to, on the level of like true fulfillment, be giving back in some way. What is that thing for you? And just starting to do that, because what you feel, you start to like fill your own cup internally, spiritually, mentally, emotionally. You become more magnetic. You start to attract people that want to do collaborations. You start to attract the right person, the right things just fall into place. But you just got to start doing. What would you do if you weren't worried about the results or the fruits or getting recognition, whatever? Understanding those things will probably come as you purify yourself and as your heart begins to be more in a right space, right? But again, all of our blueprints are so unique and so different. It doesn't always appear that way. It doesn't always look that way. Sometimes people that have their heart not in a good place have millions of people following them, unfortunately, right? But, you know, I don't know what, you know, there's so many different reasons for those things. So last but not least, the moon. Yeah. So what you're being prepared for, you're seeing it's all a game. It's all an illusion. It's all Maya, right? The moon is like those deepest fantasies, but it's also those deepest fears and how they're, you know, they're kind of intertwined, right? Our greatest fears and our greatest desires are definitely most certainly intertwined, because it's like you start to undo the falsity that this whole game is when you start to get everything you want and understanding, and you see how that doesn't last, right? And then you start to get a lot of reflections of what you don't want, and then you see how none of that lasts and how it's all here to set you up. It's all a big setup, but not in a negative way. It's in a really positive way to help set you free, right? And that's part of the surrendering to the sweetness with this Venus and this moon. It's like there's so much about fantasies, and I love that this is like, I think this, what is this? This is called like the fantasy deck or something, this tarot deck. It's very like phantasmical. And so I feel like this is really saying that life begins to feel much dreamy, right? Life is but a dream, merrily down the stream is what it feels like. Like you're not taking it, you're just really, I really am seeing this surrender. Like wherever life is taking me, I'm going to follow it, whether it seems good, whether it seems bad. I know it's just part of just like this human incarnation. It's part of being on a planet of polarity. Doesn't mean evil, doesn't mean good. You know, it is what you make it. And so if that's what you want to say is happening, sure. But also understanding that on this planet, the more deeper understanding that the deeper the attraction is, like in a magnet, the deeper the attraction is when you flip it, is the more is like the same degree that you are repelled, right? So the more something has the ability to like entrap you because you desire it so much, is the same degree that it has the ability to ensnare you in deeper karma, deeper confusion, deeper agony, deeper despair, right? And we see that one of our best examples of that is in love, right? Never have you ever felt so like blissed out of your mind, and then never have you ever like also felt so rageful and jealous or whatever, right? If you guys have had those experiences, but not just with relationships, but in general, when you're putting too much weight in things that are ephemeral, then it's not joyful, right? But I'm seeing you guys are being prepared for surrendering to the sweetness. Making love to something is understanding it's a dance, and that, you know, it's an open palm kind of thing. And so you're not getting caught up in it. You're not getting caught in the bullshit of success, meaning that your numbers look a certain way, or, you know, anything. And that failure doesn't mean anything, and that it's all a comings and going. So that's true joy. That's true. I did see 1333 earlier, but I didn't call it out. 333 is my number of ascended masters. So transcending the realms of duality. You can still exist in it, but you're not taking your cues from the realms. Like you've extricated yourself from the wheel of cause and effect. So you're not swept up in that wheel of like when things get good, you know, you're thrown off your game. When things get bad, you're thrown off your game, but you're just like, true joy is like when you're self-sourced and it doesn't matter what the fuck is happening. And that, you know, the more that you're self-sourced, that catch-22, the more that like those scales tip to where you don't need those negative happenings to kind of wake you up and shake you up. It's like you're already surrendered. So it's like life has got you right where it wants you to be. All right, Pile 5. So this was a great reading. Thank you for being here. I'm going to leave this here for now. Please like, comment, subscribe if you've been here before, and I hope to see you soon.